What makes a classic movie classic other than being old? Alfred Hitchcock's Shadow of a Doubt was released in 1943, which absolutely solidifies it as an old movie that was over 80 years ago. However, what makes it a classic movie is that there are still people interested in the movie, people who still love the movie, and it was directed by one of the most iconic directors of all time, Alfred Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock said many times that Shadow of a Doubt was his favorite movie, which is saying something. Alfred Hitchcock released Psycho, Vertigo, North by Northwest, Rear Window, The Birds, and many other movies that have survived the test of time. What Alfred Hitchcock said made this his favorite movie was that he loved the idea of bringing danger and menace to an idyllic, small American city. The movie was set in California, but it could have been anywhere in the country. They picked a house to film the movie in, which looked like an ordinary, nice, but maybe run-down house. As a matter of fact, when the owners of the house were told that their home was going to be used in an Alfred Hitchcock movie, they painted it up and did some repairs, which was not the way Alfred Hitchcock wanted it to be. They actually had to spend time dirtying up the house and undoing some of the repairs so that it looked the way they wanted for the film. The movie centers around the story of Charlotte Newton, who goes by Charlie. She's named after her uncle Charlie, her mother's brother. She's feeling down, a little bit sad, and she feels like the best thing to cheer her up would be a visit from her much beloved Uncle Charlie, who is very well traveled and a little bit mysterious. Coincidentally, they receive a telegram that he's on his way to town. And of course, Charlotte Newton is delighted. She obviously has a lot of love and affection for her uncle, but when he arrives, he starts acting rather suspicious. And over the course of the movie, you learn that Uncle Charlie isn't exactly who he appears to be. This review video is going to be full of spoilers. Now, the movie's over 80 years old, so I'm assuming you've seen the movie, but if you haven't and you don't want to know what happens, be warned, this video contains spoilers. Before we go any further, quick reminder, my name is Eric Wilfred Watson, and you can support this channel by purchasing my thriller suspense novels, Judas Kissed and Becoming Quincy, on Amazon.com. Judas Kissed is a supernatural crime thriller. Becoming Quincy has a little bit of a science fiction twist. This is a movie I haven't seen in a very, very long time. I think I saw it once, maybe 30 years ago, and I don't really remember it that well. Rewatching it for this video was quite fun for me because it was almost like watching a new Hitchcock movie all over again. It wasn't one of the movies I go back to all the time. I've watched Vertigo plenty of times. I've seen Psycho a million times. I've watched North by Northwest, Rope, all of his major hits. I've seen those lots of times, but Shadow of a Doubt isn't one of those movies a lot of people talk about, and I think that's unfair. I wish this movie was ranked higher than it is. I wish it was remembered more than it is. But to be fair, black and white movies aren't really as popular in the 2020s as they were before. One of the things that makes this movie quite good is the actor portraying Uncle Charlie is a really good actor. I'm not terribly familiar with Joseph Cotton's body of work, but he did a good job here, and the rest of the cast is really well done. I like the Newton family. I like the dialogue. One thing that Hitchcock excels at is directing people, so everyone in the movie acts well, acts believable. They all have unique personalities, which I genuinely like. What I find interesting about the movie is really the relationship between Charlie Newton and Uncle Charlie. She adores her uncle, and her uncle turns out isn't really the greatest guy. There's the power dynamic of an older man and a younger woman and how much she adores this guy. Nothing sexual or anything like that, but he does act inappropriately towards her. He acts aggressively towards her, but she still likes him, but less and less so as she learns more about him. The family is visited by a couple of people who say they're doing an article and want to talk about the average American family, but that's just a cover. They're actually cops investigating if Uncle Charlie, whose name is Charlie Oakley, is actually a serial killer who targets older, wealthy women. And of course, that turns out to be absolutely correct. And when she realizes that Uncle Charlie really is up to no good, Uncle Charlie tries to kill her a couple of different ways. He tries to kill her by sabotaging the stairs leading to her bedroom so that she falls. He locks her in a garage with the car running and the keys out of the ignition, hoping she'll suffocate. But of course, she survives. One thing that I was a little bit disappointed with was that it seemed like they were setting something up, but it didn't really go anywhere. One of the members of the family and a family friend were talking about murder mysteries. They kept talking to each other about the perfect way to plan a murder. They jokingly talked about different ways of murdering each other. They were shown holding murder mystery books and magazines, so I thought it was going to be something where they would figure out who Uncle Charlie really was, but that never really came into play. It was a bit of a red herring, but really it seemed unnecessary. Why have characters talking about solving murder mysteries when they don't actually do any of that in the film? There was an actual police detective who found out who Uncle Charlie really was, and of course, Charlotte Newton, aka Charlie Newton, figured it out, but the people who were talking about solving murders never did. It was just in the movie sort of as a distraction, and I don't think that quite worked. Alfred Hitchcock usually does a cameo in his movies, and I don't think the cameo in this worked either. It was a bit distracting. Alfred Hitchcock was seen on a train holding a hand of cards, and he had all of the spade cards, from the number 2 all the way up to the ace of spades. It was sort of a joke that the director was holding all of the cards, but it was too much of a fourth wall break because there really isn't a card game I can think of where a player would hold an entire suit of cards in his hand. But that's just a small nitpick. The movie excels because the dialogue is quite good, the characters are quite good. Uncle Charlie really didn't seem convincing as somebody trying to blend in. He acted way too suspiciously for somebody on the run, and I think they played their hand, so to speak, a little too early. I think the movie could have been better if they played out the drama of whether he really was this murderer or not, but they revealed that he is way too soon. I know Alfred Hitchcock has said that when the audience knows something and the characters don't, that can build suspense, and I agree with that.
Talking about baseball, whatever you like, 5 minutes of it, very dull. Suddenly, a bomb goes off. What do the audience have? 10 seconds of shock. Now take the same scene and tell the audience there is a bomb under that table. Well, the whole emotion of the audience is totally different because you've given them that information. Now the conversation about baseball becomes very vital. You've got the audience working.
But having no mystery at all was a little bit disappointing. I don't think this is Alfred Hitchcock's best movie, not even close. However, it's an Alfred Hitchcock movie, and it is excellent. The direction is fantastic, every camera angle is well thought out and gorgeous, even in the black and white, and maybe especially because of the black and white, everything looks great. It's a good movie to look at. It's quite entertaining. I genuinely like it. It seems like it was a little bit too long for the amount of story that they had. It seems like this may have been better if it were an Alfred Hitchcock Presents episode rather than a full-length movie. Not every movie has to be gigantic. Not every movie has to have explosions and chases and murders. This movie is actually mostly dialogue, but that's okay. It's good dialogue. It's well-written dialogue, and it isn't the kind of dialogue you hear in modern movies because it takes its time setting things up. Modern movies seem to try to go as quickly as possible. This movie takes its time to build the drama and build the suspense. If you like classic movies, I highly recommend it. I do not think it's Alfred Hitchcock's best movie, not even close, but I can see why Alfred Hitchcock would like it as the creator of the movie. It does have the contrast of an idyllic small American city with a little bit of a darkness introduced to that city. I like the movie quite a bit. With that being said, please hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss the next video. Until next time, thank you for watching.